in a sun-warmed corner of a small village called Mudemba in the southwest region of Cameroon, where red dust clings to bare feet and stories travel faster than the wind, a young woman moves through her morning routine like clockwork. Her name is Malaika, 27 years old, mother of 3, daughter, sister, survivor. This morning, like every other, she is at the market with her mother Elizabeth, setting up their fish stall, the same way she has since she gave birth to her first child, trying so hard to ignore the whispers and mockery. Too many children, too many mistakes, too little future. Most often, she laughs, but beneath that laugh, there's a tiredness Malaika never speaks of. There are battles she needs to put up with every day. Just as the sun rises higher, brushing gold across the roofs of nearby stalls, a shiny white Toyota rolls into the market square. Eyes follow the man stepping out. Zachariah, 45, respected, feared. A businessman with 2 wives and perhaps enough ambition for a third. Rumors have it that he is into some occultic practices, but no one knows for sure. He moved with the ease of someone used to doors opening before he knocked. But when his eyes met Malaika's, it wasn't a door that opened. It was tension. She looked past him as if he were just another passerby. One would think Malaika would seize the opportunity and finally free herself from the mockery, but after the disappointment from her last lover, who abandoned her with a kid, men were no longer trustworthy, and certainly not this one. He smiled, she didn't. He offered money, she refused. He left, but not without making it clear he would return. And he did. The next day, just before noon, Malaika's mother, Elizabeth, is sitting by the house, picking out dirt in her tray. She is about to make red koki. She looks up as the same car pulls into the compound. Elizabeth welcomed him with the warm politeness only mothers can master. He explained that he wanted to have a brief conversation with Malaika. When Malaika stepped out and saw him there standing in her space, her home, her face hardened. She was hoping never to see him again. But her mother urged patience. She urged her to listen. And so, Malaika, against her instincts, agreed to take a short walk with the man. They walk along the village path, lined with banana trees and dusty foot trails. Children laugh in the distance. Zechariah spoke with the confidence of someone who had already made a decision. A man offering a new life, not asking for one. He promised comfort. He promised to take care of her children. He said things Malaika had heard before, only now wrapped in gold and power. But her silence spoke louder than rejection. She kept on asking herself why a man like Zechariah, who could have any woman he wanted, would insist on marrying her, mother of 3, not even the most beautiful girl in the community. She tried so hard to like the proposal, but something kept telling her this was a bad idea. She decides to listen to her instinct and tells him she is not interested. She turns and walks away, her footsteps kicking up the red dust. Zechariah watches her, the charm on his face fading for a moment. Just a moment, revealing something darker beneath. That evening, Malaika is restless. Can't tell if it's about Zechariah or her youngest daughter's illness. Outside, children are playing and birds sing. But inside, Malaika cannot rest. She sits on a worn mat, her youngest child, Emily, curled softly in her lap, finally asleep after a long day of fever. The sunlight brushes her cheek. Her eyes are distant, her spirit somewhere else. Then came the change. A sudden creak from the door. Heavy footsteps, sharp, loud, and angry, shattered the quiet like glass. The air in the outside thickened. The warmth of care turned to the sting of fear. He was home, her elder brother Fred. Before she could rise or speak, the storm exploded. The sound of his voice, sharp and accusing, cut through the wind, demanding answers she already knew he didn't want. The pot, the food, the unspoken resentment. Then it came, a crack, a slap. Loud, final. Malaika gasped, not for herself, but for Emily, who stirred weakly in her lap, half waking, half trembling in confusion. The fury continued, louder now, full of shame, entitlement, and wounded pride. Accusations flew like stones, that she was still here, still unmarried, still nothing, that she was a burden, that her children were mistakes. And through it all, Malaika said nothing. Only her arms tightened around her daughter, and her silence screamed. Elizabeth rushes in, eyes wide, voice trembling with rage and fear. This isn't the first time, but God, let it be the last. But Malaika says nothing. She holds her child tightly, her face streaked with tears, her spirit trembling but not broken. She's heard it all before, from men, from the world, from her own blood. This is the moment she knows something must change. She would not let her daughter grow up thinking this is what love looks like. The slap may have stung, but it awoke something deeper, something fierce, something final. The sun rose slowly over the hills, casting pale gold across the village paths. Morning inched into day as birds took flight and vendors prepared for another round of survival. Down by the stream, where water glided smooth over the stones and silence was only broken by distant laughter and the splash of cloth being rinsed, Malaika stood alone. Her wrapper tied high, a bucket beside her, arms submerged in the cold, familiar current. The night before had left her bruised in places no one could see, and like so many mornings, the water was her refuge. A place where tears could fall unnoticed and strength could be restored with each cupped handful. Then came Rachel. Full of color and energy, she arrived with her usual bounce, her smile a contrast to the heaviness Malaika carried. Rachel's life was different now. A husband who loved her, a home that felt safe. Yet behind her joy lived concern. She had seen Malaika shrink too many times, and she knew the kind of silence that meant something was breaking. They worked together, side by side, rinsing, scrubbing, wringing. Rachel spoke softly. Malaika listened, then finally opened. She shared what she hadn't said aloud until now, that things wouldn't stay this way forever, that one day she would leave that house and take her children with her. But freedom, she admitted, had become more complicated. Because Zachariah, the man with polished shoes and practiced smiles, had not stopped. Each visit came with more pressure, each offer more promises, and the more he insisted, the more fear took root. Not fear of commitment, but fear of him. Rachel's hands paused in the water. There were whispers, she said, whispers about the wives who came before. One buried too quickly, one disappeared without a trace. But rumors live easily in villages, and truth is often quieter than gossip. Still, Rachel warned, where there is smoke, sometimes there is more than fire. Sometimes there is danger. They said no more, just continued to wash until the buckets were full and the shadows had changed. Then together they climbed the hill back to the village, the weight of their conversation trailing behind them like wet cloth. Elsewhere, in the quiet of a compound shaded by a mango tree, another kind of conversation was unfolding. Zachariah had arrived again. Not to the market this time, and not to see Malaika. He came for Fred. The two men sat beneath the shade, their voices low but firm. Zachariah's words came with weight, not just from his tone, but from the thick bundle of bills he placed on the wooden stool between them. It was not a request. It was a transaction. Get her to marry me. Fred didn't hesitate. His eyes barely flicked at the money before his hand claimed it. He nodded once. Not as a brother, not as family, but as a man who had just decided what Malaika's future would be worth. And with that, the deal was sealed.